Here's the guy who originally came up with that idea that currently has us looking like a bunch of children-freezing bastards. The one who has every goddamn newspaper clamoring for our heads. The one who's turned our personal lives into a living hell. Now, some say I should have fired his sorry ass when this thing broke. Some say I should have put him in one of those damn t-shirts and left him out overnight. Well, these are fine ideas of considerable merit. That's not the way we do things around here. Yet. He says he's got some ideas on how to get us out of this mess. Well, let's hear him out before we crucify him.
All eyes turn to me. I have faced friendlier crowds.
Well, thank you, Mr. Big. Mr. Big, members of the board, and members of the board of directors. Thank you for allowing me to address you here today as we look forward to the future of marketing campaigns of the Danish match company DMC. As we all know, last spring we inaugurated a new promotional distributional program formerly known as Ice Girls. As you may recall, the program was intended to provide an alternative means of distribution while at the same time generating positive publicity by integrating urban waifs into our sales force as independent consultants. The program proved to be remarkably successful.
Until they started freezing to death.
I was quite surprised, actually, on how far they had let me go on until my first interruption. It, alas, was not to be my last.
Freezing, yes. Well, I am here this morning to point out, while despite the difficult times the program is currently experiencing...
Like freezing waifs?
Despite the recent flurry of climatically induced body temperature deficiency episodes, there exist several positive factors.
Like the fact that they're all not dead yet?
I'm not dead yet.
No, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not dead and neither is this company. Now, with your kind indulgence, I would like to take us through a rather simple exercise so that we can determine the best course of action for the company.
Hire polar bears.
As consultants.
And hope they don't eat the customers.
Move Denmark to the Bahamas.
Move me to the Bahamas.
Now. Okay, people, settle down. Let's just play along before we decide to fire his sorry ass.
Thank you, Mr. Big. And might I say, what an authoritarian tie you are wearing today.
Oh, thank you. Mother bought it for me.
Silence greeted that remark. I continued after a moment.
Well, other than the poor publicity from having frozen anorexic waifs found each morning clutching our product and wearing our company apparel, are there any other negatives associated with the Hot Girls program?
Acknowledging strongly that the already acquired offered critique and more, but in a different direction, seemed to deflect some of the emotion in the room as they actually considered the question.
The mime thing was a little weird.
Very weird.
My husband spent the next 3 days after he saw some kids walking the dog against the wind and playing with a yo-yo in a shrinking box, doing his own version of mime. Once he did the makeup and the striped shirt 24/7, that was it. I just had to shoot him.
Sweet.
I gotta admit, he did a good man shot in the shoulder. He didn't make a sound.
They say that never deny is the first rule of improv.
So I shot him in the kneecap.
Sweeter.
Then the bastard made a sound. So now you got something to say, you freaking freak. Mime this, and this, and this.
I'll bet. So that's where you've been.
Yeah, legal stuff.
Oh, how's that going for you?
Well, the judge threw out the case once we brought in the mime troupe.
Sweetest.
Well, he was giving the kids nightmares. They might never forgive me for letting the abuse go on as long as it did.
Just set aside the money for the therapist now, my friend.
Put it in an aggressive mutual fund. You'll need it.
Ooh, which one?
There followed a brief discussion of various types of mutual funds. Some held that one should invest aggressively to quickly provide enough cash to counter the mime trauma. Others held a contrary opinion that since the demand for extensive therapy for mime-traumatized children was likely to be a long-lasting, the investing focus of the parents investing to take care of their children thus inflicted should be much more conservative, much along the lines of municipal bonds and treasury notes. The third possible point of view, that the trauma was more seeing one parent blown away by another, was briefly raised, then ridiculed, given that, after all, he was just a mime. But that was neither here nor there. I myself was pleased that the group was focusing solving problems rather than shredding me. But finally it was time to move on.
Okay, the mime thing was a little too weird. Anything else?
Well, I never quite got flame dancing.
And I never liked the snake.
Although the parrot was cool.
Okay, good people. You have raised some very good things here. Let's take a moment and try to draw out the larger issue here.
I don't quite follow.
I mean, what is the larger issue that mime, dance, and the animal thing represent?
Loss of control.
That was from Monica. Bless her pre-planned, observant heart.
Exactly. With Hot Girls program, we ceded creative control to the anorexic waifs. Anything else? On the negative side.
There was a long pause.
I guess the t-shirts.
How do you mean?
Well, they were hugely popular, but they had holes in them, which is winter outerwear.
Okay, I see your point. Maybe we can put t-shirts in the both good and bad category.
General nods of agreement all around the table.
So on the bad side of the equation, we have frozen anorexic waifs with strong consumer identification with us, and loss of creative control of the message, and holy t-shirts in winter. Monica, could you write that down on the butcher paper? Okay, thanks. Okay, people, now what worked?
Well, they certainly sold matches.
They got noticed.
Even before they got frozen.
Positive, people. This is positive.
That's what I mean. I mean, even before they turned up frozen, those anorexic waifs got us and our matches noticed.
And sold.
Oh, got it. Excellent point.
And our profit margin on what they sold was phenomenal.
Not to mention the line of apparel. That was pretty much all to us.
Too bad we never got the chance to open the proposed Ice Girls theme park.
Well, it's got some good lumber we can convert to matches.
So overall, people, big picture it here. What worked?
Again, there was a pause.
The big-eyed waif image sold matches.
That was Monica again.
And a lot of other stuff.
That was from Mr. Big.
Exactly, Mr. Big. Great point. Monica, be sure to write that down. Okay, people, anything else? I think Mr. Big has pretty much nailed it.
They were a well-trained lot and knew when to be silent.
Okay, then what we have on the positive side is the big-eyed anorexic waifs selling matches and other stuff at a fantastic rate. And on the negative side, we have the little waifs doing what they want and freezing on us and thus making us look bad. Is that fair?
General nods and murmurs of agreement.
So what we need is a way to keep the anorexic waifs, but get control and lose them dead and frozen, yes?
More general nods and murmurs of agreement.
So how do we do that?
Always straight to the point, Mr. Big. Great point. Here's the answer. Mr. Big, ladies and gentlemen of the board, I present to you Olga, the future face of the Danish match company DMC.
The lights went out, and then a spotlight captured at the end of the boardroom. A tall, very thin, yet at the same time very adult blonde dame wearing nothing but a familiar t-shirt. As she walked around the room with her legs that seemed to go on forever, a muted but driving soundtrack began to play. I continued.
Olga and her fellow models will be hired by us, paid for by us, and displayed only where and when we want them to be. We will control when and where they appear. We will control the message and the messenger.
Olga stopped walking and draped a necklace of matchboxes around Mr. Big's neck. She lingered and looked Mr. Big in the eye as instructed.
With anorexic, big-eyed models showing a hint of shoulder and a bare midriff, we capitalize on that demonstrated appeal, while at the same time, by restricting the number of appearances of models, we lessen the negligible amount the chance that any model will be found dead frozen clutching our product.
Olga was slowly draping another matchbox necklace over Mr. Big.
By utilizing a few models only, that means we can exhibit a tight rein on the models we use.
Olga bent down and carefully placed another necklace over Mr. Big.
We can also afford to pay them much more so they can become glamour queens in their own right and provide a positive role model.
Mr. Big seemed less interested in the aspect as another matchbox necklace joined his brothers and sisters around Mr. Big.
That means we, meaning you, Mr. Big, can have a hands-on, direct control as to the models who will serve as the face of the Danish match company DMC.
Hands-on.
Intoned Mr. Big. Another necklace draped.
Models.
The thought continued.
No more waifs doing what they want, willy-nilly.
Willy-nilly.
Mr. Big repeated. It seemed that the matchbox necklaces were getting heavy because Olga took a moment to stretch and relax her strained muscles. Then another necklace.
Rather, our models doing what we want.
We want.
Parroted Mr. Big. Another necklace.
Models when we want.
Models.
Crooned Mr. Big. Another necklace.
Models at our behest.
Hest. Always wondered what that was.
Another necklace.
Models, Mr. Big, focus. Models. Models for the maximum impact on our...
Maxi. Big impact.
Another necklace.
bottom line.
Bottom line.
The music stopped.
Damn it, I like this idea. And I like you too, darling.
And so, just like that, we turned it around. We took what had worked and went with it. People liked the waif anorexic look but didn't like frozen children. Well then, fine, we would go with that. We simply plastered Denmark with images and bios of Olgas and others of her ilk, enticing Danes to buy matches. Oddly enough, the same sort of bio stories that seemed to work for the waifs seemed to work equally well for the models. Although, learning from Mr. Anderson, fewer of the models came from orphanages, and more were from broken homes. Of course, we also immediately severed all connections with actual waifs. Faced with competing images and news stories of frozen waifs and the slightly guilty feeling they might have some sort of vague responsibility versus the images and stories of healthy and scantily clad women, Danes chose to focus on the positive, and the consciousness of the plight of the urban dregs thereupon resumed its normal place in society, somewhere well between elementary school hockey and just about the overflow of carriage tires in Danish landfills. As for the waifs themselves, we did let them keep any extra t-shirts and hats they might have squirreled away. In consultant speak, it was their severance package. Now, some might have actually questioned whether another solution might have been to actually work to ameliorate the plight of the urban dregs, such that working for us was not a de facto death sentence. Some might. But seriously, as a private company, clearly our focus was to our stockholders, primarily, and then to our customers. If and when the urban dregs had the wherewithal to participate in a consumer society like decent people, then we could talk, but to bankrupt ourselves in vain pursuit of some pie-in-the-sky dream would serve neither us in the short run or them in the long run. Back in the real world, our new marketing plan quickly had a huge impact. Scantily clad, tall, very thin Nordic women with big eyes sold matches. As the mobs of winter melted away, the anti-Danish match company DMC sentiment quickly lost steams. Litigation and actual criminal investigation asking wearisome who knows what, when questions hit the consistent consultant wall that sapped the energy of the campaign even further. Legal was in seventh heaven with the hours to bill. Oh. By spring, no one was caring, and by summer, the story was dead and buried, and we kept selling matches. That summer, the Parliament passed the Emergency Act of the Suppression and Eradication of Mime. The bill passed the lower house 40-03 to 15 and 73 to 12 in the upper house. The somewhat more controversial Open Season on Mime amendment, which allowed private citizens to legally bludgeon mimes until they lost consciousness, passed narrowly in the lower house but was rejected by the upper. The Queen signed the legislation, and the mimes throughout Denmark cried silently as they were exiled. Although that summer the lower house of the parliament voted 296 to 133 to go to war with Finland, just because we're pissed and cranky and because they're there and handy. God bless Denmark. The upper house passed the same resolution, 73 to 33. Fortunately, the Queen vetoed the resolution and war was averted. Mr. H.C. Anderson, having learned that there was no way muckraking children's fables could compete with anorexic models showing some skin, soon started a writing career outside of journalism. He quickly acquired an impressive reputation as a writer of children's stories, primarily maintained by those who had never actually read them. That year, we won a ton of bronies, given annually to outstanding efforts in the Danish advertising and marketing industry. The brony is named after that pioneer Danish advertising giant Brøndum Skavnius Estrup, who was among the first to separate Danes from their money with slickly packaged appeals. His feat is even more impressive considering his products, which were whale-lard byproducts. Mr. Big discovered his knack for selecting models began to overshadow his other duties as head of the company. He soon was replaced by his mother. Mrs. Big ushered the Danish match company DMC through a period of phenomenal growth. After years of studying his use of words, Ingrid up and married Alan. They left the Danish match company DMC and started their own boutique agency, which became quite well known in the nonprofit world. Lars, the janitor, then became head of marketing and soon won a ton of bronies on his own with his "When you need a match so clean you can light a floor" campaign, with a graphic of a match floating on a bucket of water, impressed the judges with its zen-like qualities. And me? When the exhilaration of saving the Danish match company DMC began to fade, Monica and myself soon found ourselves somewhat bored, so we quit and became hired guns of sorts, traveling from dying company to company, developing and spreading the gospel of embracing the clown, of adversity and always coming out smiling. And when in doubt, remember anorexic, attractive Scandinavian women showing some skin can sell anything. Later, Monica suggested that I write this book you have here. So that's it. I went from being a guy in trouble to a guy with the world on his string by just keeping in mind the simple adage, when they put you in a clown suit, say cheese. Well, that's not quite it, of course. I am also available for conventions, company meetings, and motivational seminars. I can be a keynote speaker and am also available for individual consultations. There is a series of audio tapes. Please check out my website at embracetheclown.com for dates and locations of my current tour.